him. They did not see. You may be seated even in the presence of God. You may be seated. I would like to speak from the subject of, let's see, my young folks, you might be familiar with this subject. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it. All right. Walk it like I talk it. All right. That's for my young folks. That's for my young folks. For my elders, let's do who you walking with. All right. Who you walking with? Y'all can dig there. Walk it like I talk it. And who you walking with? Who you walking with? Okay. For those of you who are educated and like to be all correct and everything, who are you walking with? How about that? That's better. All right. But I'm country, so I like to say who you walking with. You know, who you walking with. Walk it like I talk it. What we have going on, today's text, is two men who are on a journey. Now this is after the death and the burial of Christ. They are having some conversations as they are walking. I would like to let you know that a lot can be said about you depending upon who you're walking with. Yeah, we can tell a lot about you depending on who you are walking with. People, if you're not walking with the right group of people, you will probably end up in the wrong place. See, a lot of times we end up linking up with folks that we should have never been with, and we end up in the wrong environment, end up making the wrong choices, ended up making bad decisions and facing failures that were never meant for us to face, all because we chose to walk with somebody that we wasn't supposed to be walking with. You got to walk it like you talk it. What are you talking about, preacher? I'm talking about it does not matter that a person is wearing the same shoes that you got on. It don't matter that both of y'all are wearing J's and that both of y'all are suited and booted. You could still be headed in another direction than somebody. Somebody can be dressed up like you, can talk like you. Somebody can be from the same neighborhood that you're from, but it does not mean that you have to be walking in the same direction and going in the same place that they're headed to. You got to check who you are walking with, people. You got to walk it like you're talking. If you're talking a mean game, you got to walk a mean game. You know what I'm saying? Because some folks like to talk like they do things right. But when you open up closed doors, you realize you're a little bit corrupt, ain't you? Some folks act like they're walking in the right direction and doing the right things. But when you peel back the surface, you see that their heart is full of thorns. Any of you ever been betrayed? Any of you ever been disappointed and let down because you were taking a journey with someone that you thought had your back? You ever been betrayed and let down because, today, loyalty is a big word that we are all in search of. And these two gentlemen find themselves walking a path. Now I like what's going on here because you got to check who you're walking with. I like what's going on because these two people, as they are walking, they are having some conversation. They are having some conversation. And could it be that the reason why we end up linking up with folks that we should have never been with is because we're not even having conversation with them? Oh, it's too many relationships that lead to broken hearts, all because you didn't have the right conversations with people. You got to start having discussions with people that you enter into business with. You got to start having discussions with people that you're linking up with. You got to be careful about the company that you keep. But if you ain't talking about the right things and figuring out and trying to find out actually what is going on, you are headed in the wrong direction. You got to be careful about who you link up with. Start having some conversations. Some real purposeful conversations. Ask some questions that have some meaning to it. Y'all can sit around and talk about your favorite cartoon all day. You need to have some serious conversations and ask, where are we headed? It's too many times folks end up marching around in a circle like the children in the wilderness, the children of Israel out in the wilderness, running around in circles, chasing after the wrong things, all just to be wasting time and energy, wasting the things that are precious, because you never had that real conversation to find out what direction you're actually headed in. Who you walking with says a lot about who you are. Got to start having some conversations on the subject of being equally yoked. You find folks, we like to assume that being equally yoked is just all about faith. It means as long as you believe in Jesus and I believe in Jesus, we equally yoked. That's not what that means. But if you were out in the field plowing behind a mule and you had mules that were unequally yoked, that means one of them might be a little weaker than the other one, or one of them might pull to the left a little bit, or one of them might pull a little bit to the right. And the problem that you have here is what would happen is the strong one ends up pulling all of the weight, and the weak one ends up being drugged. And now the problem is that if we are not all working together to plow in this field, if we are all not working together in labor, we are wasting our energy, y'all. We are pouring out our strength, and so many relationships, so many partnerships, so many friendships end up just like that, where one person is pulling all of the weight and somebody else is being drugged. But I done made up my mind. I begin to check who I'm walking with. And if you're going to be dead weight to me, I ain't got time to waste on you. But I'm linking up with folks that I'm going to be equally yoked with. I'm linking up with folks. Not only do you have the same faith as me, but are you headed in the right direction? Do you have enough strength to make it on this journey? I'll pick up your slack if I need to, but you need to have your mind made up that you're going to continue this walk with me. Anybody got their mind made up that they headed somewhere in your life? You got to be headed somewhere. But we're not having conversations with the people that we're linked up with. And then you want to go all on Facebook and social media and post all your business. When at the end of the day, you didn't have the right conversation with somebody. They are discussing what has happened. They are discussing what has happened. I implore you to link up with your partners and find out they headed in the same direction. For you married couples, or those of you who are headed in that direction, you need to have some goals set up in mind. All right. You say, babe, where are we headed, baby? What do you see in a year from now? What do you see 5 years from now? Where will we be 10 years? If you want to build something with me, if you're trying to set something up with me, we have to discuss what lies in our future. We have to discuss what we can set our hopes on. There's too many folks living day by day. You only live once. That's right. You only live once. So make a plan to live the best life that you can live. You got to be prepared. And it all starts with having a little talk and having a little conversation. Who you walking with? Who are you walking with? Are you walking it? How you talking? Because, we all present our best selves, don't we? Yeah, we are real intentional about how we present ourselves. I put my tie on this morning. I buttoned up my shirt, and I got my suit on. I got my Easter suit on. Y'all see my colors. I don't get too colorful, but I'm colorful this morning. It's Easter. I said I'm going to look like a Baptist preacher this morning. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm intentional about it. And guess what? When I take pictures and I post them on Facebook and Instagram and everything, I'm pretty intentional about it. I make sure I get the right angle. I make sure I'm smiling. I make sure the lighting is correct and everything. We got a certain way that we like to present ourselves. But listen, that is a me. That the camera don't see. That is me that's walking around in his gym shorts, and his shirt is probably off, and my belly is out, and I'm in the comfort of my home. But that ain't everybody's business. But my wife knows. She knows. She said, "That's my belly. I like that belly, baby. That look good on you," because we have an understanding. She knows me, not just the me behind the pictures, but the me behind the skin that I am in. She knows the me. She knows the heart of me. And that's my question. Do you know the heart of somebody that you're with? Not just the them that you hit the like button on. Do you know the them beyond that? Do you know how they look when they're angry? Do you know how they are when they're mad? Can you talk to them when they're sad? Who are you walking with? Do you really know who you're walking with? Who you're linked up with? And have you discussed the direction that you're headed in? Where are you headed? And where are you going? They having this discussion, and up pops this stranger who joins in on the conversation. And he has some questions too. He says, what are y'all talking about? What are y'all talking about? Folks, I think we're having too many pointless conversations. And it's led us to too much division, too much separation, too much drama, and too much mess. But our conversations ought to be purposeful. What are y'all talking about? Just so happened these two brothers on their journey are having the right kind of conversation. Because they're talking about what Jesus has done. They're talking about what God has done. And some of the best conversations that you can have involves you bringing up God, involves you bringing up Jesus, involves you bringing up some faith. We can talk all day about the current political affairs. We can talk all day about what Diddy did and what Diddy didn't do. But at the end of the day, what does God have to say about the matter? What does God have to say about the election? What does God have to say about the president? What does God have to say about our political affairs? What does God have to say about homosexuality? What does God have to say about abortion? What does God have to say about what are you talking about? Because you are just running around in circles and you ain't getting nowhere fast if you're not having real meaningful conversations and you're not asking, what does heaven have to say about the matter? What are y'all talking about? It ain't about how I feel. I got so caught up in our feelings. And don't you know that the things that feel so right can be oh so wrong. Stuff that feels good to you might be harmful to you. You got to check who you're walking with. And what are you talking about? Jesus asked them, what are you talking about? They began to tell him the story. They began to talk to this stranger. And they say, don't you know? They get to talking, haven't you heard? Say, you got to be the only one around here that don't know what is going on right now. So when you turn on the news and that news is real loud and all that drama and all that mess is real loud, your response ought to be, hey, I don't know where you've been all this time, but don't you know that God has already showed us exactly what the end is going to look like? Don't you know that heaven has already spoken? The Bible tells us the promises of God are yes and amen. The Bible prophesies for us and tells us what the end is going to look like. And if you had your eyes open and you've been paying attention a little bit here in the recent times, you know that time is winding up. Time is winding up and time is winding up, and we don't have no time to waste. You're going to be having some purposeful, meaningful conversation. What are you talking about? And where are you headed? Where are you going? Said, don't you know? Haven't you heard? All of this brokenness, all of this hurt and pain we're seeing, all of the tearing and the ripping, the separation that you see taking place. Don't you know? Don't you know? Haven't you heard about Jesus Christ and what he did on Calvary? Don't you know that he came to set you free from your bondage? Don't you know there is a way out of depression? Don't you know that you can overcome your anxiety? Don't you know that there is a fix for your broken heart? Don't you know there's a mender? Don't you know there is healing for your sin-sick soul? Don't you know? Haven't you heard that Jesus has come? Don't you know what he did when he died on Calvary's cross? Haven't you heard? And there's one problem in their conversation. There's one problem. Is they believed in Jesus. The question comes when Jesus wasn't exactly who they thought He was. They mentioned he's from Nazareth. You know, a lot of us like to picture, some king to be seated in some beautiful seat. You know, them king seats that you get for your photo shoots and everything. And he ought to have a crown on, right? And he's got to be strong and masculine with a chiseled chin and a chiseled chest, right? And he's got to be put together, and I can see him now with a golden staff, and he's probably got some rings on and some fancy jewelry because he's king, right? And he's got to be rich, and he's got to have that kind of power. This is the ruler that they pictured. They pictured a man to set them free, some leader, some king. They said, we thought he was going to redeem Israel. But little do you know that the king shows up in another kind of attire. Oh, here's where we can relate, right? Because let me tell you something. Usually those kinds of kings who are rich and filthy in glory, they can't relate to the people. They don't know about the struggle of having an empty belly. They don't know about the struggle of going and seeing an empty refrigerator. They don't know about the problems that you have when you just can't find out what outfit to put on because you actually wore that yesterday. They don't know about the struggle that you have when you can't get along because there's so much grief from not having financial stability. They don't know what it's like. They don't have no idea what it's like to go to the doctor and you don't have the insurance to cover the procedure that you have to take place. They don't know what it's like not to be able to afford medication. They don't know what it's like not to be able to afford education. They don't know. They don't understand. But the God that we serve, Jesus of Nazareth, came from a place, a poor place. He came from Bethlehem. He was born in a manger. He was misused and mistreated and abused. He was lied on. There was scandal around his name. Folks said some things about him. He was denied. He was rejected. He wasn't the king that they thought he was going to be. But let me tell you something. He's the king that I choose to have rule over my life. Oh, that's my king. The one that was born in the manger. That's my king. That's my king. The one that knows how I feel. Amen. The one that has compassion for you. The one that can change your life because he knows about it. That's the kind of king I want to have. Give me a king that feels something. Give me a king that looks out and has compassion even for the lowliest. Our king. Sat down and had dinner with disciples that was misfit and outcast. Our king, when he got through serving them, put a towel around his neck and went and washed the feet of the disciples. That's the kind of king we got. And that's the kind of king you want because that's the kind of king that fits and shapes you up to be a king and a queen. He tells you, won't you come up and rule with me? What do you believe? What are you talking about? And where are you headed? You ask them some questions. And they're going on this journey thinking they're talking with a stranger. Having these conversations, and then the stranger starts talking to them and breaking down some things that they didn't know. Started telling them about Moses and the prophecy and all of this fulfillment, and started telling them about who Jesus really is. Not who you think he is. Who is he really? And this requires experience in your life. Who is Jesus really to you? To somebody who's been suffering from addiction, you know that God can deliver you. For somebody that's dealt with brokenheartedness, you know he's a company keeper. You know he's a heart fixer. A mind regulator. You ever been sick and the doctors gave you bad news, but you can testify that you're still here today? Amen. You know he's a doctor in a sick room. You ever faced injustice and stood at a court behind a crooked judge and God pulled through and got you out of the mess that you got yourself in? Amen. He's a lawyer in the courtroom. Yes, he is. That's the kind of God that we serve. Who is he to you? Who is he to you? Have you been talking about him? Does it come up in any of your conversations? Do you know where you're headed in your life? Do you have purpose? Do you have purpose? And look, they having this conversation and making this journey and taking this trip. And the sun is going down. The sun is going down. And the stranger says, I'm just going to keep on going. But two men obviously enjoyed their conversation with him and obviously built some type of bond with this stranger. And they say, no, we don't want you to keep traveling, but why don't you take lodge with us here? And they sit down and start eating and having dinner. They sit down, start sharing and breaking bread with each other. And all of a sudden, they realize that this whole time, they've been talking with Jesus. Whole time, they was talking with the man who they said they believed in. And that's how life is. A lot of times we take some trips and we feel alone. Nobody understands. Nobody knows. I'm walking this journey by myself. I'm having some conversations with myself. I'm talking and I'm sharing with myself, and nobody knows how I feel. You ever been there where you feel alone, where nobody understands you, nobody comprehends you, nobody knows what you mean? You ever been misunderstood? Some of you know the life that you lived, where you say, I wasn't walking with God back then. Yeah, you was doing some dirty stuff. Okay. I was doing some dirty stuff, and I didn't care about what God said. He didn't show up in any of my conversations. I didn't bless my food at the table. I didn't say no prayers before. I didn't say now I lay me down. I just go on and take a nap, and I probably woke up in the wrong bed. Amen. And I would say that I wasn't walking with him. But it wasn't until God saved my life. It wasn't until I actually sat down and was seated with him at a table. And he began to break bread with me. And I partook in this communion with him that I realized that, you know what? Even though I was doing messed up stuff, God was with me the whole time. That wasn't no stranger that was walking with me. I was not by myself. I was not all alone. But God was walking and talking with me this whole time, when I could have went left or could have went right, when I could have been messed up. God was there the whole time. When I said some things I shouldn't have said, God was right there the whole time. The writer of the song says, I could go to the highest mountain and I still couldn't escape him. I could go down to the lowest valley and I still can't get away from him. You can close the doors and hide up under the roof, but you still can't escape God. God is walking and talking with you. In fact, the Bible even says, I could make my bed in hell. I could go all the way down to the pits of Sheol and I still can't get away from the presence of heaven. Don't you know who you're walking with? Don't you know where you're headed in your life? And if you put your hand in the man's hand, you'll realize he's been walking with you this whole time, and you'll know where you're headed in your life. Anybody know where they headed in their life? I'm headed to glory, baby. I'm headed to glory, baby. I'm headed somewhere. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to be somebody because I know somebody. Walking like you're talking. You say you believe in this heaven. You say you believe in this God. You say you put your hope in Christ and he saved your soul. Walking like you're talking then. Put on your best shoes. Put on your best suit. Take that best step forward and try to live right. You ain't perfect. You're going to mess up. But as long as you got your hand in his, he'll pick you up every step of the way. Who you walking with? Who you walking with? Look like a puzzle to you how life is. You don't know which piece to pick next. But Jesus came to restore you and to show you what the picture looked like. You know how it is when you got the puzzle, you got to have a box, right? You don't you try to put no puzzle together and you ain't got the box now. It's going to be some pieces missing. I tell you that. If you ain't got the box full of pieces is missing. And you'll never get it put together. You got to have the box. You got to have a box to look at it. And on the subject of you got to have a box, you got to have a body. You got to have a body. Jesus was the body that was made for heaven. And it's a problem to get to the tomb and there ain't no body. That's a problem. That's a problem. Listen, it's a problem if you dig up a grave and ain't no coffin in there. Somebody done lied about something. You know, you look at the tomb, you say, here lies such and such. That's a problem. To get to the tomb and there ain't no body. That's a problem. That's a problem. And we got to discover what this really means. Because we got this puzzle here, but we don't have no box. We don't have no body to prove that something has taken place here. We don't have nothing to prove, to look at, to say, this is where we head. This is where we go. Okay, I take this corner piece right here and put it there. We don't have no box. They don't have no body. So Jesus has to show up. And there was one that doubted. He said, you know what, what was that OJ said about you ain't got no glove? If the glove doesn't fit, you must quit. If there ain't no body, you can't say that he lives. Somebody could have stole something out the grave. Somebody could have went and took Jesus' body out the grave. And they knew this. That's why they rolled the stone in front of it. That's why they had guards and soldiers set up out front. Now, you can't take this body and just say that someone came and took Jesus' body. No, y'all not going to do that. Y'all not going to fix that up. And so Thomas spoke up and began to doubt. And he said, I'm not going to believe until I see the body. I'm not going to believe this. Matter of fact, not even the body. I got to see the holes in his hand. I want to push my fist in his side. I gotta experience this. I gotta touch him for myself. I know that sounds crazy, but you the same way. Don't you know? I gotta experience God for myself. And so what happened? Jesus showed up, came through the door, and said, "Oh, you want to feel me? You want to know what it feels like? You want to have evidence? You want to have proof? Here I am. Let me tell you something. I don't have to touch his skin. I don't have to touch his actual hands and interlock with his fingers. I don't have to have that. I don't have to know if his hair was nappy or if it was not. I don't get caught up in discussions on if he was black or white, because I learned how he felt. He showed himself to me. And I know that he got holes in his hands because I know he died for me. And he tells me that I am his own. He walks with me. And he talks with me. And I know he's been here this whole time, because I'm still alive and I'm still here today. I know who I'm walking with. And I know where I'm headed. He was resurrected. You take that. I know we got Easter baskets, and look, I had my babies out there picking eggs yesterday. I don't know what egg got nothing to do with it. I don't know. And it probably is twisted, It's probably twisted just like everything else is. It's probably perverted just like everything else is. They take stuff and change it and switch it on you. But I know this. The day that we celebrate Easter on, it changes. Have you noticed that? That it changes every year. It's not always on the same day. We don't have a certain date we can say Easter is on, but it's determined by the moon that God set in place. Now we can argue all day about the birth of Christ. We can talk all day about when we should celebrate that. But Easter or Resurrection Day, it's different. No, I know for sure. Because see, it was on the Passover week. It was on that weekend of Passover. That the weekend after the full moon, the weekend after the harvest moon, where it's time to start planting. Where it's time to start sowing some seeds. Listen, y'all, it is time to start sowing some seeds. My sister told me, she said, brother, I feel like I'm starting to catch every little thing that I did wrong. She said, I'm at a point in my life, she said, I know I've betrayed some people. I know I let some folks down. I know I did some stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. And she said, she said, brother, I'm catching hell. And it hurts. And she said, I deserve this because of the wrong that I've done. Amen. We deserve punishment for the wrong that we've done. Amen. And the Bible says, as a man sows, he shall reap. Amen. Folks, start sowing good seeds in your life. Amen. Start sowing good seeds. Now is the time to start planting. Now is the time to get out there and work in that garden and work in that vineyard. Now is the time. If you want to see some fruits come harvest season, now is the time to plant. Now is the time. I'm done. I'm through. Who you walking with? Walk it like you're talking. Amen. Give God some praise. Give God some praise.